The sound of the plane's engines roared in his ears as Captain Daniel Carter stared out the window, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing the edge of the purple heart metal pin to his chest. The flight back to the States had been long, but the weight of his prosthetic leg reminded him that the journey ahead would be even longer. At 52, Daniel had given more to his country than most would in several lifetimes. 3 tours in Afghanistan, countless missions, and a night that would haunt him forever, the night he lost his leg. It was during his 3rd tour, in the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, that Daniel's convoy was ambushed. The enemy had been waiting, hidden in the shadows of the rocky terrain. Despite the heavy gunfire and chaos, Daniel had managed to drag 3 wounded soldiers to safety, one by one. But as he went back for the last man, an improvised explosive device, IED, tore through the ground, taking his left leg below the knee. The pain had been excruciating, but the guilt of not being able to save the 4th soldier was worse. For his bravery, Daniel was awarded the Purple Heart, but the medal felt hollow compared to the life he had lost on the battlefield. Now, as the plane touched down on American soil, Daniel braced himself for the next battle, the battle to rebuild his life. The rehabilitation process was grueling. Learning to walk again with a prosthetic leg was just the beginning. The phantom pain, the endless hours of physical therapy, and the emotional toll of adjusting to a new reality became his daily routine. But Daniel was determined. He had survived war. He could survive this. After months of searching, Daniel found what he hoped would be his sanctuary, a small, single-story house in the quiet community of Whispering Pines. The house needed minimal modifications for his disability, and Daniel invested every penny of his savings to make it a home. The neighborhood seemed perfect: wide sidewalks, neatly trimmed lawns, and American flags flying proudly from front porches. It was the kind of place where he could finally find peace. At first, Whispering Pines seemed like the ideal place to start over. The neighbors were friendly, and Daniel was greeted with warm smiles and handshakes. Frank Wilson, a Vietnam veteran who lived across the street, helped Daniel unpack his belongings. Several families brought welcome baskets, and Daniel felt a sense of community he hadn't experienced since his days in the military. Even Linda Harper, the president of the Homeowners Association, HOA, seemed supportive. During the community's 4th of July barbecue, Linda raised a toast to Daniel, calling him a neighborhood hero. Her perfectly coiffed hair and practiced smile gave no hint of the storm that was about to brew. For a brief moment, Daniel allowed himself to believe that he had found his sanctuary, a place where the nightmares of war might finally give way to the peace he so desperately sought. Daniel had been living in Whispering Pines for just 3 weeks when the first anonymous letter appeared in his mailbox. The single page, typed in bold font, complained about disturbing mechanical noises during the night that were preventing decent people from sleeping. Daniel read the letter several times, confused and concerned. The only mechanical noise he could think of was the sound of his prosthetic leg when he walked to the bathroom at night. Due to his medication, these trips were unavoidable. "I never wanted to disturb anyone," Daniel later recalled. "I was horrified at the thought that my disability might be bothering my neighbors." Determined to be a good neighbor, Daniel spent over $2,000, money he could barely afford, on special carpeting throughout his home. He installed rubber dampeners on door hinges and even purchased expensive padded slippers designed for prosthetic users. 2 days after completing these modifications, there was a knock at his door. Linda Harper stood on his porch, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I've been hearing concerns from neighbors about noise issues," she said, peering past him into his home. "As HOA president, it's my responsibility to make sure everyone's comfortable." Daniel invited her in, eager to show the extensive modifications he'd made. He demonstrated how quietly he could now move through the house, even with his prosthetic. "Well, this all looks very considerate," Linda said, her voice tinged with something Daniel couldn't quite identify. "Let's hope it resolves the issue." As she turned to leave, she added casually, "By the way, you are aware that any exterior modifications require HOA approval first, right? Even ramps or handrails." That night, as Daniel lay awake, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Something in Linda's tone, the way her gaze had lingered on his prosthetic, felt less like concern and more like targeting. His instincts, honed by years in combat zones, were sending clear warning signals. The battlefield had changed, but somehow, Daniel knew he was under attack once again. 1 week after Linda's visit, Daniel found an official HOA letter in his mailbox. Unlike the anonymous note, this one came on Whispering Pines letterhead, bearing Linda's flourishing signature. "Dear Mr. Carter," the letter began. "Despite previous warnings, complaints about nighttime disturbances continue. The board has scheduled an emergency meeting to address this ongoing issue." The meeting was set for Thursday at 2 p.m., precisely when Daniel had his weekly physical therapy appointment. A coincidence? He doubted it. Unable to reschedule on short notice, Daniel missed the meeting. The next day, every homeowner received a copy of the newly approved nighttime noise ordinance, specifically prohibiting mechanical disturbances between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., with fines starting at $250. They might as well have named it the Daniel Carter Act, Daniel told Frank when his neighbor came by to show him the notice. There's not a single other person in this neighborhood this could apply to. But what truly chilled Daniel was what Frank showed him next. Using his smartphone, Frank had recorded something disturbing: a small security camera mounted on Linda's house, aimed directly at Daniel's front door and windows. "She installed it last week," Frank explained. "I noticed the technicians while walking my dog. When I asked about it, Linda claimed there had been suspicious activity in the neighborhood. The camera's positioning made its true purpose obvious. It wasn't protecting the neighborhood, it was monitoring Daniel." Daniel's fight against Linda Harper and the HOA was just beginning. As the harassment escalated, Daniel began to notice Linda's silver SUV parked across the street when he left for appointments. She would make notes on a clipboard, tracking his comings and goings. At the grocery store, Daniel overheard Linda telling another neighbor, "Property values drop 15% when neighborhoods become accessible. I'm just protecting our investments." Daniel attempted mediation through the county's Community Dispute Resolution Center. Linda appeared all smiles and reasonable words for the mediator, but her true intentions showed when she suggested that some people might be happier in assisted living facilities rather than single-family communities. That evening, Daniel sat on his back porch, feeling more isolated than he had in the Afghan mountains. But then something unexpected happened. The Martinez family from 2 doors down approached hesitantly. "We heard what's happening, Mrs. Martinez said quietly. "It's not right. Linda's been targeting others too." The Chins had to move after their son with autism was repeatedly fined for disturbing behaviors in their own backyard. By week's end, 2 more families had secretly reached out to express support. One showed Daniel photos of Linda following them in her car after they'd installed a wheelchair ramp for an aging parent. "You're not alone," they assured him. "But Linda has ways of making life difficult for anyone who crosses her." For the first time since the harassment began, Daniel felt a flicker of hope. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. This was becoming something much bigger. Daniel's prosthetist, Dr. Sharma, examined the prosthetic leg carefully during his monthly appointment. "There's nothing more we can do to reduce the sound," she concluded. "Modern prosthetics are remarkably quiet, but complete silence is physically impossible. The components need to move to function." She looked concerned as she observed Daniel's tense posture and the dark circles under his eyes. "How are you sleeping?" "I'm not," Daniel admitted. "I've started using the bathroom in the garage at night. I keep a portable toilet there now, so I won't make noise walking through the house." Dr. Sharma was appalled. "That's completely unacceptable. No one should have to live this way in their own home." The next day, a second violation notice arrived, this time with a $500 fine and ominous warnings about escalating consequences for continued noncompliance. Attached was a neighbor's complaint form describing the distressing mechanical clicking sounds heard at 2:13 a.m. Daniel recognized that his PTSD symptoms were returning: hypervigilance, disturbed sleep, anxiety. At his VA appointment, his doctor noted alarming changes in his blood pressure and stress levels. "What you're experiencing isn't just annoying," the doctor explained, writing an official medical letter. "It's affecting your physical recovery and mental health. This harassment is counteracting the progress we've made over the past year." That evening, sitting alone in his living room, Daniel contemplated selling the house at a loss. Perhaps Linda would win after all. The thought of starting over, of finding another place where he might feel safe, seemed overwhelming. He picked up a framed photo from his deployment, standing with his unit, all smiles and determination, before everything changed. They had faced impossible odds together. Some hadn't made it home. "I survived Taliban attacks," Daniel whispered to the empty room. I'm not going to be driven out by a neighbor with a clipboard. The next morning, the doctor's letter arrived in his mailbox, officially documenting how the harassment was impacting his service-connected disability. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was the first piece of real ammunition in a fight Daniel was finally ready to wage. The rumors spread through Whispering Pines like wildfire. At the community pool, hushed conversations would stop when Daniel approached. Some neighbors crossed the street to avoid speaking with him. I've heard property values have already dropped 10%. One homeowner told another loudly enough for Daniel to overhear while collecting his mail. Who'll want to buy here if we get a reputation as that kind of neighborhood? Linda's strategy was working. Fear of financial loss was turning neighbors against Daniel. At the monthly HOA meeting, which Daniel attended despite Linda's obvious displeasure, several homeowners supported stricter enforcement of community standards. When Daniel attempted to speak, Linda cut him off. We've already been more than accommodating to your special situation, she said, the way she emphasized those words making it clear what she really meant. The third fine arrived the following Monday, $1,000, with a notice that a lien could be placed on his property if left unpaid. Daniel's hands trembled as he read the threat. A lien could eventually lead to foreclosure. That evening, Frank knocked on his door. Not here, he whispered. Meet me at Pete's Diner at 7. There are people you need to talk to. Daniel found Frank seated in a back booth with 4 other Whispering Pines residents. Mrs. Chun, who had moved out 6 months earlier, was among them. Linda forced us out after our son was diagnosed with autism, Mrs. Chun explained. Sudden noise complaints, fines for disruptive behavior, when he would stim in our backyard. We couldn't fight it. The others shared similar stories. An elderly couple pressured to leave after installing a chairlift, a family with a child who used a wheelchair, a woman with MS who needed a service dog. You're not the first, Frank said grimly. But we think you might be the one who can stop her. For the first time, Daniel realized the pattern. Linda wasn't just targeting him. She had been systematically purging anyone who didn't fit her vision of a perfect neighborhood. We have 5 families willing to testify about similar treatment, Frank said. This isn't just about noise anymore. This is discrimination, pure and simple. The group's investigation deepened as they carefully compiled evidence. Frank, who had connections at the county records office, made a shocking discovery. Linda has been forging signatures on HOA meeting minutes, he explained, laying out documents on Daniel's dining room table. Compare the treasurer's signature here and here. They don't match. Daniel examined the papers closely. This means the noise ordinance may never have been properly approved. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sarah Jensen, the current HOA treasurer's wife, reached out through Frank. My husband is too afraid to speak up, she explained over the phone. But I use a wheelchair, and Linda has been pressuring us to move for months. She keeps saying my ramp disrupts the architectural harmony of the neighborhood. Sarah revealed something even more disturbing. Linda has been diverting HOA maintenance funds to install surveillance cameras targeting specific homes, yours included. There's no record of board approval for these expenditures. When Daniel and Frank reviewed the HOA bylaws, they discovered something Linda had deliberately concealed. Fines required a unanimous vote of the board, not just the president's decision. She's been operating as a one-woman tribunal, Frank said. None of these fines are legitimate. The next day, a plain envelope appeared in Daniel's mailbox. Inside were financial records showing irregular withdrawals from the HOA account, coinciding with camera installations throughout the neighborhood. My husband can't be seen helping you, read the unsigned note. But this should give you what you need. Daniel contacted Veterans Legal Services, who immediately recognized the pattern. This is textbook housing discrimination, the attorney explained. And the financial irregularities add another dimension entirely. She's not just violating the Fair Housing Act. There could be fraud charges too. For the first time since moving to Whispering Pines, Daniel felt the tide turning. The enemy had made a critical error, assuming he would retreat under pressure. In Afghanistan, we had a saying, Daniel told the group as they finalized their strategy. Never corner someone who's already survived impossible odds, because they know something you don't, how to fight when everything is at stake. The coalition around Daniel grew stronger each day. Frank leveraged his connections with the local VFW post, and soon veteran organizations across the county were quietly mobilized. "We take care of our own," said Commander Phillips, a Vietnam veteran who led the largest post in the state. "What's happening to you is happening to all of us." Meanwhile, Daniel received a call from Rebecca Lawson, a reporter for the County Chronicle whose father had served in Desert Storm. "I've been hearing rumors about discrimination in certain HOAs," she explained. "I'd like to investigate this pattern more thoroughly." Daniel carefully shared the documentation they gathered, omitting names to protect those still living under Linda's regime. Rebecca's eyes widened as she reviewed the evidence. "This isn't just a neighborhood dispute," she said. "This is systematic discrimination against protected classes. I want to cover this story." Simultaneously, Veterans Legal Aid Society agreed to take Daniel's case pro bono. Their attorneys specialized in housing discrimination against disabled veterans. "We need to document every interaction moving forward," the lead attorney advised. "Record every conversation legally permitted by state law. Save every email, text, and letter." The team developed a three-pronged strategy: legal action based on ADA violations, media exposure of the pattern of discrimination, and a coordinated presence at the next HOA meeting. Daniel became the comm center of the operation, his military training evident in how he organized their approach. "We don't just want to win a single battle," he explained. "We need to ensure this can't happen to anyone else." The most powerful support came unexpectedly. A handwritten letter arrived, bearing the signatures of 50 veterans from across the county. "We stand with Captain Carter," it read. "His fight is our fight. We will be there when needed." For 2 weeks, they gathered evidence, prepared testimonies, and coordinated their plan. Linda, meanwhile, seemed oblivious to the gathering storm, sending Daniel a fourth notice threatening legal action if his fines remained unpaid. "Let her think she's winning," Daniel told the group. "The element of surprise is our greatest advantage." The monthly HOA meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. in the community center. Linda arrived early, arranging her materials with the confident air of someone who had never lost a battle on her turf. At 6:55, she frowned at the unusual number of cars filling the parking lot. By 7 o'clock, her face had paled noticeably. The room was packed, and every chair sat a veteran, many in caps or vests displaying their service branches. They filed in silently, nodding respectfully to each other but saying nothing. At precisely 7:01, Daniel entered, accompanied by Frank, Rebecca from the County Chronicle, and an attorney from Veterans Legal Aid. A local news crew followed, setting up a camera in the back corner. "What is the meaning of this?" Linda demanded, her voice rising. "Media is not permitted at board meetings without prior approval." "Actually," Frank countered, producing the bylaws, Section 4.3 clearly states all meetings are open to the press unless a privacy vote is taken. No such vote has occurred. Linda attempted to regain control. "We have a full agenda tonight." "Point of order," Daniel interrupted calmly. "I believe I have the floor for a resident complaint." The room fell silent as Daniel stepped forward, placing a thick folder on the table. "For the past 3 months, I have been systematically harassed, surveilled, and fined for the crime of being a disabled veteran who requires a prosthetic leg to walk." He began, presenting the evidence, the targeted ordinance, the financial irregularities, the pattern of discrimination against residents with disabilities. As Linda began to protest, the community center door opened again. A distinguished man in a wheelchair entered, City Councilman Michael Sanderson. "I believe this falls under my jurisdiction as well," Sanderson announced, rolling forward with an official envelope. "The Attorney General's office has received multiple complaints about ADA violations in this community." The coup de grace came when Daniel played the recording Frank had captured, Linda's voice crystal clear. "I don't care about his service. I don't want cripples in my neighborhood bringing down our property values. If the fines don't drive him out, we'll find another way." The gasp from the audience was audible. Even Linda's most loyal supporters looked shocked. The silence that followed the recording was deafening. Linda's face had drained of all color as she stared at the room full of veterans, many of whom were now standing. "That recording is taken out of context," she stammered. "This is a setup." The HOA vice president, a retired schoolteacher who had always deferred to Linda, slowly stood up. "I move for an emergency vote to remove Linda Harper as president, effective immediately." "Second," called out voices from around the room. Linda looked desperately for allies, but found none. Even her most loyal supporters couldn't meet her eyes. All in favor. The vote was unanimous, with only Linda opposed. Furthermore, the vice president continued, his voice stronger now. I move that all fines issued against Captain Carter be rescinded and a formal apology issued by the board. This, too, passed unanimously. As Linda gathered her papers, she attempted one last defense. You will regret this. Property values will plummet. This neighborhood will become a community, Daniel finished for her, which is what it should have been all along. Councilman Sanderson wheeled forward, handing Linda an official-looking envelope. The county is launching a formal investigation into similar complaints from 3 other HOAs where you've held leadership positions. I suggest you retain legal counsel. The news crew captured it all, Linda's hasty exit, the spontaneous applause that followed, and the long line of veterans waiting to shake Daniel's hand. In the following days, events moved swiftly. An independent audit revealed Linda had been misappropriating HOA funds for years. The board voted unanimously to adopt new guidelines explicitly protecting residents with disabilities. Daniel received a personal letter of apology signed by every board member, along with a check compensating him for the modifications he'd made to his home. Most satisfying of all was watching Linda's house go on the market just 1 week later, a for sale sign appearing overnight. The realtor confirmed what everyone suspected. She was moving out of the county entirely. Sometimes justice comes with a prosthetic leg and a Purple Heart, Frank remarked as they watched the sign go up. 2 months after Linda's departure, Whispering Pines had transformed. The community newsletter, once filled with violation notices, now featured profiles of neighbors helping neighbors. Frank had been elected as the new HOA president on a platform of inclusivity and transparency. Daniel established the Carter Veterans Housing Foundation, dedicated to helping military families facing housing discrimination. Using his settlement money as seed funding, the organization quickly grew, providing legal assistance to veterans nationwide. The ripple effects extended beyond Whispering Pines. Councilman Sanderson introduced legislation requiring HOAs throughout the state to undergo fair housing training, nicknamed the Carter Act. It passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. Other disabled residents who had been forced out began to return. The Chin family moved back into their old neighborhood, their son now welcome to play freely in their yard. The property values that Linda had been so concerned about didn't drop, they rose, as Whispering Pines gained recognition as a model-inclusive community. On Veterans Day, the neighborhood held a special ceremony. As Daniel walked to the podium, the distinct sound of his prosthetic leg echoed through the silence. But this time, heads turned not in annoyance but in respect. Some battles are fought on foreign soil, Daniel told the gathered crowd. Others are fought right here at home. Both are worth fighting. Both are worth winning. As he looked out at the sea of faces, veterans and civilians, elderly and young, able-bodied and disabled, Daniel Carter realized that his greatest service to his country hadn't been on the battlefield. It had been here, standing his ground, ensuring that the rights he had fought to protect overseas were preserved for everyone at home. With the Carter Veterans Housing Foundation now fully operational, Daniel Carter found himself busier than ever. The foundation's mission was clear: to provide legal assistance, advocacy, and support to veterans and their families facing housing discrimination. The first case they took on was that of Marcus Johnson, a Marine Corps veteran who had lost both legs in an IED explosion in Iraq. Marcus had been living in a small town in Texas, where he faced constant harassment from his HOA for installing a wheelchair ramp and making other necessary modifications to his home. The HOA had fined him repeatedly, claiming that the ramp ruined the aesthetic appeal of the neighborhood. Marcus, like Daniel, had felt isolated and defeated until he heard about the foundation. Daniel and his team, which now included Frank Wilson and Rebecca Lawson, traveled to Texas to meet with Marcus. They brought with them a team of lawyers, architects, and disability rights advocates. The foundation's legal team filed a lawsuit against the HOA, citing violations of the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act (ADA). The case garnered national attention, with Rebecca's articles in the County Chronicle sparking a wave of public outrage. Veterans organizations across the country rallied behind Marcus, and the foundation received an outpouring of donations and support. After a tense legal battle, the court ruled in Marcus's favor, ordering the HOA to rescind all fines and pay damages. The victory was a turning point for the foundation, proving that they could make a real difference in the lives of veterans. "This is just the beginning," Daniel told Marcus as they stood outside the courthouse, surrounded by cheering supporters. "We're going to change the way this country treats its veterans, one case at a time." The success of the Carter Veterans Housing Foundation inspired similar initiatives across the country. Veterans who had once felt powerless began to speak out against discrimination, and HOAs that had once operated with impunity found themselves under scrutiny. In Whispering Pines, the transformation was even more profound. Under Frank's leadership, the HOA adopted new policies that prioritized inclusivity and transparency. The community newsletter, once filled with violation notices, now featured stories of neighbors helping neighbors. The annual 4th of July barbecue, once a tense affair, became a celebration of unity and diversity. Daniel's home, once a target of harassment, became a gathering place for veterans and their families. He hosted weekly support groups, where veterans could share their experiences and find solace in each other's company. The sound of his prosthetic leg, once a source of shame, became a symbol of resilience and strength. One evening, as Daniel sat on his porch with Frank and Rebecca, he reflected on how far they had come. "We've done a lot of good," he said, looking out at the quiet street. "But there's still so much work to be done." "We'll get there," Frank replied, clapping Daniel on the shoulder. "One battle at a time." Just as things seemed to be settling down, a new threat emerged. Linda Harper, the former HOA president, had resurfaced in a neighboring county. She had taken a position as a consultant for several HOAs, advising them on how to maintain property values by keeping out undesirable elements. Daniel and his team quickly realized that Linda's influence was spreading. They received reports of veterans and disabled residents facing similar harassment in other communities. It was clear that Linda had not given up. She had simply moved her operation to a new battlefield. "We can't let her get away with this," Rebecca said, her voice filled with determination. "We need to expose her for what she is, a predator who preys on the vulnerable." Daniel agreed. They began gathering evidence, reaching out to victims, and building a case against Linda. This time, they would take the fight to her. The opportunity to confront Linda came sooner than expected. She had organized a conference for HOA leaders, where she planned to share her strategies for maintaining property values. Daniel, Frank, and Rebecca decided to attend, along with a group of veterans and disability rights advocates. The conference was held in a large hotel ballroom, filled with HOA representatives from across the state. Linda took the stage, her confidence unshaken, and began her presentation. "The key to maintaining property values," she said, "is to ensure that your community remains attractive to the right kind of people. This means enforcing strict standards and addressing any issues that could detract from the neighborhood's appeal." As she spoke, Daniel stood up from his seat in the audience. "What about the rights of disabled veterans?" he asked, his voice carrying across the room. "What about the families who just want a place to call home?" Linda froze, her smile faltering. She hadn't expected to see Daniel there. "This man," Daniel continued, addressing the crowd, "is a decorated veteran who gave everything for his country. And yet, he was driven out of his home by an HOA that cared more about property values than people." The room fell silent as Daniel shared his story and the stories of others who had been targeted by Linda. He played recordings of her speeches, showing how she had systematically discriminated against veterans and disabled residents. "This isn't about property values," Daniel said, his voice filled with passion. "This is about humanity. It's about doing what's right." The crowd erupted into applause, and Linda was forced to leave the stage in disgrace. The media, alerted by Rebecca, captured the entire confrontation, and the story made national headlines. In the weeks that followed, Linda's empire began to crumble. The HOA she had advised distanced themselves from her, and several launched internal investigations into their own practices. The state attorney general's office opened a formal inquiry into her activities, and she faced multiple lawsuits from victims of her discrimination. Daniel and his team continued their work, using the momentum from the confrontation to push for broader reforms. The Carter Veterans Housing Foundation expanded its reach, opening offices in several states and partnering with other organizations to advocate for veterans' rights. In Whispering Pines, the community continued to thrive. The Chin family, who had moved back into their old neighborhood, hosted a block party to celebrate their son's birthday. The sound of children laughing and playing filled the air, a stark contrast to the tension that had once dominated the neighborhood. Daniel stood on his porch, watching the scene with a sense of pride. He had fought for this, for the right to live in peace, to be treated with dignity, and to build a community where everyone was welcome. As the years passed, Daniel's work with the foundation became his life's mission. He traveled the country, speaking at conferences, meeting with lawmakers, and advocating for veterans' rights. His story inspired countless others to stand up against discrimination and fight for what was right. In Whispering Pines, Frank continued to lead the HOA with integrity and compassion. The community became a model for inclusivity, attracting families from all walks of life. Property values, far from plummeting, soared as people sought out the welcoming atmosphere that had been created. One evening, as Daniel sat on his porch with Frank and Rebecca, he reflected on the journey they had taken together. "We've come a long way," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "But there's still more to do." "We'll keep fighting," Frank replied, his eyes filled with determination. "For as long as it takes." Rebecca smiled. "And we'll keep telling the stories. Because every story matters." Years later, Daniel Carter's legacy lived on. The Carter Veterans Housing Foundation had helped thousands of veterans and their families find safe, accessible housing. The Carter Act, which required HOAs to undergo fair housing training, had been adopted in multiple states. In Whispering Pines, a statue was erected in Daniel's honor, depicting him standing tall, his prosthetic leg a symbol of his resilience. The inscription read, "Some battles are fought on foreign soil. Others are fought at home. Both are worth fighting. Both are worth winning." As the sun set over the neighborhood, the sound of children playing echoed through the streets. Daniel's dream, a community where everyone was welcome, had become a reality. And in that moment, as he looked out at the world he had helped create, Daniel Carter knew that his greatest service to his country had not been on the battlefield. It had been here, at home, standing his ground and fighting for the rights of those who had fought for theirs. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video.